Hope for tomorrow, good enough today. Oh yeah, hope for tomorrow, good enough today. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Good Enough Today, the podcast where we share stories from people who are showing up authentically even when life gets hard. Today, our special guest is Dr. Chris Harvey. Hey.
What's going on?
Welcome to Good Enough Today.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that you're here.
Me too.
So happy that you're here. You have a lot of titles, and I'll get to those, but I usually strip those down, and I just want to talk to Chris Harvey, the man.
That's fine.
Kind of tell me how you got to where you are. But of course, my listeners will know we start every show with PEM. How are you today, physically, emotionally, and mentally on a scale from 1 to 10?
Physically, I'd say feeling pretty good. So I'll say about a 9.5.
Oh, okay.
Emotionally, I would say I'm moving up right now on my drive over here. So I'm probably at an 8.5.
Okay.
That was just because we had a busy week. Found out so my parents were in a car accident. They're okay, but I found out today.
Oh no.
So I'm processing all of that that goes along with that.
Yeah.
And then why y'all didn't tell me?
I was about we were both about to have the same conversation. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm moving past it because I know my parents, they don't have ill intentions. So no need to stay in that space. But we're good. And then mentally, I would say I'll give myself probably about right at a 9. Yeah.
Okay. Man, I think you might be a very optimistic person, or I'm a pessimistic person. I don't know which one. So
I think I'm optimistic.
Okay. So I could tell from your scale, because I'm like, man, if I was at a 9, what would that feel like? Like, I feel like I'm ready to jump off and fly if I'm at a 9, right? And I think that it's interesting to hear that. So tell me right now, what is giving you or bringing you joy?
What is bringing me joy? Well, it's a lot of things. I think, first and foremost, my relationship with God. And I have to say that not out of just cliche or anything like, but seriously, because he and I are at a space to where I understand that he does not have to. And so because he does not have to wake me up, let me have a marriage, let me have kids, car, all that kind of stuff. I've grown to a different level of understanding. So there is a dependency and effort to maintain that as priority. So that brings me joy. Of course, my wife, my kids. Looking forward to going to South Korea to see my Krishana.
Yeah, she's teaching over there, right?
Yeah, so I get to go see her. I'm going for business, but there's some time where we can have personal time. So she's gonna take a train down and
that's awesome.
Get to see her. So that has me really, really excited. But all of my girls are doing really well in life. They're going, so that's good. Started back school this week.
Yeah.
And kids were despite first day jitters and stuff, overly respectful. And that was just with all the negative of social media and the things that that could be transpiring, the work we're doing to kind of build awesome systems for kids and stuff, and for them to come in and things not always be perfect here or there, but they was yes sir, thank you sir, can you help me sir? So
that's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing. That kind of gives us hope, right? Because all you see in the media is all the bad stuff.
All the bad stuff.
And there's some good stuff going on. Okay, so because I know you, it's hard for me to not act like I know you, right? And so everybody else doesn't know you. So talk a little bit about your journey, because I don't know if I introduced you as Dr. Chris Harvey, right? So how did you go? Did you always want to get this kind of education? Kind of take me through your educational journey and how you got to this.
So, funny story. So me and my sister, when we were kids, first week of school, we used to play, get ready for school. We'd get our school supplies, and we'd be, I don't even know what we were doing, but we'd have our school supplies out. We'd be lining them up and getting it all nice and neat. And then we'd be messing with our outfits, and then we'd do it. I mean, we do that all. And I don't even know what the game was or how it started. I just remember those memories. So there was always an excitement about going to school until there wasn't.
Right.
I think that happened in middle school. And elementary was great. Up until 5th grade, I think that's when I started having to navigate the world of bullies. And so and I learned quickly that, you know, people weren't always going to be receptive to my nice demeanor. And so in middle school, I had this other side that I developed to, you know, kind of be a little bit tougher. And so, and I think, and I say that to preference why I did not like school out anymore. I later on learned years, I went to middle school and they were reading intensive, and I was years later found out I had dyslexia.
Oh, wow.
I went all the way through school not getting any support. So between trying to navigate bullying and, you know, and overcorrecting for that, to being tough and, you know, cussing people out and those bad stuff, you know, double life, and then trying to figure out how to navigate through academics without, you know, I just felt like I didn't read as well as other people. And
so how old were you when they recognized that you had dyslexia?
I was in college.
What? Okay, so you made it to college. That's resilience, I guess.
But I didn't make it to. I made it to college on math.
Oh, okay.
I made it literally on math and advocacy, learning how to advocate for myself. And so I went all through school, not liking school. And when I was in my senior year, you know, I was doing senior year stuff and having a good time senior year. And, you know, I applied to some schools, and, you know, I wanted to do basketball. I wanted to run track. I wanted to go out, maybe go to HBCU for band. And, you know, but really didn't have any direction.
Right.
And I was really doing it because that was the culture and the expectation. Not necessarily because I, you know, was going to do. And so eventually I had to kind of lock in on something. And it was my grandmother who helped me lock in. I went to see her one time, and she was like, she was very dependent upon God. And so she was like, now what you need to do, because she was like, what you gonna do? And I was like, I'm thinking about doing this. And, you know, I got this letter from this school in Minnesota, and I was thinking about this in Louisiana. Now what you need to do, you need to go right on down there to San Marcos and go to school down there in music, because my grandmother knew everybody knew my grandmother, and she didn't get out too much except for church, you know, but somehow people always found their way to her house or on the phone. Long story short, she knew more than I did that there was a recording program for music down in Southwest Texas, and she told me about it. And I looked it up, and I was like, yeah, that is something I want to do. So that's how
that wisdom comes, right?
So that's how I ended up actually wanting to really go to college and having some direction. Now all that changed when I got down there. You know, went to music, signed some contracts, made music for the person didn't pay me, learned a hard lesson on understanding contracts, turned me off of music for a while, but I invested all this time into it, and so I need to figure out now how I was going to pay for school, because I was like, well, I got this contract coming, so I'm gonna spend some money here, I'm spend some money there. I graduated from high school at 17, so I'm young, and I'm trying to navigate those things on my own. And I'm not asking for help or telling people anything. The opportunities. I was just like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna make all this money. Then I'm gonna tell people. You know,
all right.
that didn't work out.
Surprise.
That didn't work out. So ended up doing a miracle to try to help pay for school. And that's kind of how I learned that I had other gifts besides music. And so over the years, then I realized that I had a desire to solve problems, had a desire to help people. had a desire to edify people and just have interactions with people and systems and make them better because of the interaction. So I went into social work. I'm a degree in social work. Fast forward, wasn't getting fulfilled in the work I was doing, so I ended up getting into the classroom, which I avoided from 95 until 2004.
Oh, that's a lot of resolve.
Yeah. I avoided the entire time, and then God has a way to stop what you're doing, make me stop what I was doing.
Yep.
And there was nothing else on the table but the same job I had been ignoring for 2 jobs, exact same job, same school. So that's how I got into teaching. I was teaching, had a great group of teachers around me at Keeling Middle School now. And they just told me this is how you're supposed to teach. So I didn't know anything else except for the high expectations that they placed on me. And what I remembered about my mom and dad being teachers. And so came in, I guess I was doing really well because the superintendent, he was later superintendent, but he's assistant superintendent at the time, came to my classroom, was like, hey, you're doing really well. We had a conversation about what he saw in my classroom. So I think you should be a leader. I think you should be an assistant principal. So if you ever go and get your master's degree, come let me know and I'll find your assistant principal job. And so I did, and then I got into it, and that's where I realized that I was actually more than just serving people and solving problems. I actually had leadership. Around the same time, I'm navigating, a deeper dive into my relationship with God, and we do spiritual gifts. So now we've always done it in my church, but I ain't really, did it, but that was just a task. But then I started making connections between, my spiritual gift, teaching, leadership, administration, and then what was actually happening in my life. And then when I stopped really fighting with God about trying to get back to music, trying to get back to, because I wanted to be a lawyer and I wanted to do music so I could have my own record label. That was the goal.
I hear you. Okay.
And so, yeah, he said no.
It's so interesting because we talked about this fight.
Now.
Yes, we talked about this fight with God. And before we got on here, I was telling you that I was fighting with God about doing this podcast, and God won, right? So it seems that God always wins. But can you talk to me about what does that fight look like for you? Because for me, it's like you have an idea that you're supposed to do this, right? And you kind of feel this push toward doing it, but that's not what I want to do, right? And so it's like, but I've invested this, and this is what my purpose is over here. Maybe you don't, and I don't want to say that I'm like, God, maybe you're wrong, but maybe we should consider other variables. Like this looks good. So what does that look like for you?
So I pray that you or no one else out there is as hard-headed as I was, well, maybe I wasn't as hard-headed, but he knew what I needed to get me to get out of my own way. And so doors that were open were closed. People went through the door and people took advantage. And so I ended up closing the door. And really, what really had me yield to him was he hit my finances. And he was like, you know what? Since you ain't gonna pay attention, I'm gonna take your employment. And I had an apartment, I had a car, and I had no job.
Oh, wow.
And he said, I need you to learn how to be dependent on me. And so 10 months, he had certain situations come. I was obedient. I went to church, or I did this, whatever he's telling me to do, and I was doing it because I didn't have nothing else to do. And I was unemployed, and I was looking for jobs, and nobody was calling me back. And but for 10 months, somehow checks would come. How those, you get those letters sometimes like, hey, you actually have money that's owed to you.
Yes.
I got one of those. There was old checks, because I worked a ton of jobs while I was in college, and it was like, hey, you got all these checks sitting out there.
Man, I need that kind of luck, because I used to get the scam was like
no, it was
legitimate.
It was legitimate because it was him showing me I can get you money from anywhere.
Yes.
I had love of music. People call me and say, hey, can you do some tracks for me? People were paying me for tracks. And he just told me, you don't have to, and I didn't reach out to anyone. People found me to do this, to do odds and end things. And 10 months passed, and a job I had applied for 10 months prior called me. And I was like, hey, sorry for the delay. And I started working there, and then it just, from then on, I was still struggling, but he kept reminding me of the lesson. Do you need me to show you again that you're supposed to follow what I'm telling you to do? And then when I had the worries about, but what about, he's like, then I just take care of you. I just took care of you.
Oh man.
So I still sometimes struggle with things. But it's more so, I think I'm overly cautious because I'm trying to do it right.
Yes.
And right now the lesson he's teaching me is the faith part.
Yeah.
Hey, I told you to do it. Do it. And so I'm not necessarily always fighting anymore about doing it, because I'm not want to do what he's telling me to do. Now it's about the faith part.
Right.
About, okay, what do I need to get all this research? I'm trying to help him with what he's telling me to do. And he's saying, no, just do what I said.
Just do what I said. Oh man, that's powerful, because I don't listen. I mean, if I'm being honest, I try, like in my mind I'm listening, but I'm like, well, in order for me to be, I think is that in order for me to be deserving, I got to kind of work hard enough for God to know that I'm serious about it, right? Because then in my mind, I don't just deserve what God has for me if I'm not doing enough, right? And that's not how it works at all.
No, that's not how it works. And the other lesson I learned, and going through that same thing, is he qualifies us. Doesn't matter the degrees, doesn't matter the education. He qualifies you for whatever he's asking you to do. And by deepening my relationship with God and spending time reading the Bible, that's what he did. Like, people he used to be leaders, kings, or whatever, he qualified them. And, the biggest example is, like David, he was out there with sheep.
Yeah.
And then he went from being a shepherd to the king. So, I mean, he qualifies, he gives you significance, not the titles, not the degrees, not the money. And so really learning to understand those things has helped me again to move quicker. It's also given me the faith and confidence when I face opposition.
Okay, I'm glad that you said that, because what I was gonna ask you is, I feel like I'll say we're the refined versions of ourselves, right? And so it's, I don't want to say easy either, but it's easy for us to be like, yeah, you had faith. But what about when you were like down, right? You're like, okay, I'm supposed to be trusting God for this and having faith. And so how did you continue to, or what inside of you, right? Or what did you tell yourself to understand that there was still some hope, right? We talk about that little bitty hope. How did you keep that, and what did you do?
I would say over the years, I got better at it. When I was younger, I didn't handle it well. And I think I just masked it with busyness, or, hanging with friends, anything that could just kind of distract me from the problems or the obligations that he was trying to place on me. But it never went away. So it was always there, no matter, how busy I got. My sleep would be taken away. So now I can't sleep, and he's in my dreams, or I'm waking up and it's like, you got to do this, you can't escape. And so it just became a point in time of him saying, if you really trust me, you really believe in me, then you'll try it. And so things would get bad, and I would try it, and I was like, all right. And it was, hey God, you said
exactly
that if I come to you about this, blah blah blah, and I can't do it. It's everything is too hard. I'm overwhelmed. I am not doing well. I need you. You told me that you got my back. I need you right now. So show up. and in those weakest times of me admitting vulnerability, and dependency, he shows up. And so you do that enough times,
you start to
trust. And so I'm in a space now where I have had enough experiences to where I can navigate, I think, a certain level of challenges. It doesn't mean that there's not nothing bigger that's going to rock me again.
Right.
But I do have enough. I have enough experiences to where I have confidence, you know, in the peace,
right,
that I can go to him. So that's what this is. I'm saying, yeah, I've had some experiences. I know that he shows up, you know, and I know enough to have trust and have faith in that.
Does he always show up like you expect him to?
No, not at all. There was times where, you know, different things we were trying to do for the kids, bills and stuff, or college tuition or whatever it may be, was higher than the income. And I was like, Lord, I need some more money. I need to get a promotion. I need maybe looking at a job, you know, like help me. And it didn't come to me. It went to my wife. She got a bump in pay and all this kind of stuff. And it was happening like that for a while. And then when she wasn't employed anymore, I was like, all right, Lord, what we gonna do? Because there ain't no job openings and blah, 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 blah. I need some money. And then all of a sudden a job opening did happen. And he moved up and moved me up and got to the position that I'm in now. So same job that I'm in now, I had applied for years ago. And so it was about the timing. And
that timing it always gets me, because you know, you want God to move on your timeline.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work that way. I don't think it ever actually works the way you want it, but I think that there's you have to know that God's God, right? And how do you know if he moves on the timeline you want? But let's talk a little bit. I want to go back to something that you said about not liking school and then figuring out that you had dyslexia. After that, did it turn into you liking school then? Or like, was there a shift for you? Did you always feel like something's off here, or how did that work out?
Yeah, I just buried it and kept that internal, that, you know, I couldn't learn as much as well as other people. And that's just kind of what it was. And so what I ended up doing was learning how to learn without having to do all the reading.
Okay, now wait. All right. So teach me, because I went the opposite direction and read everything. Okay.
Yeah, no, it became a survival technique. I learned, I would sit in class and I would be listening to the lectures or whatever, and I would kind of study the professor to kind of learn and look for, you know, and there was some struggles first because I would fail some tests. But once I learned the professor and how they moved, how they operated, and how they test, then I would figure out how to, you know, learn the information that way. And so I created this workaround, and then I had a psychology professor, and while I was in the process of trying to figure out this loophole, how I was going to make it through college without reading, and he called me in on one of my papers, and it was like, hey, you know, are you going to the lab to get help with your dyslexia? I was like, what's dyslexia? That's how I found out.
Really?
Literally like that. He was a tester. He did screenings for adults and students. And he was like, when are you gonna go? And I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. So explain to me what it was, and he said it looks like this, and he showed me in my work. And I was like, I've been dealing with this all my life, and nobody told me. So two things happened. One, I started going to the Student Learning Assistance Center, and they showed me how to use these workarounds I was already creating, which they labeled as strengths. Showed me how to use this superpower I was creating on my own with these study techniques. And then I just started learning things, being able to learn exponentially. And it didn't turn my desire to read on, but it turned my desire. It made it okay. It made reading okay, but only for it has to be purposeful.
I hear you.
So if it's linked to growth or an opportunity, then I'll dive into it, but I won't do it for fun.
You know what? I'm not going to blame you on that, like, because there's some work involved in that, right? And so that makes a lot of sense. How has that impacted how you interact and the compassion you have for the students that you serve?
It's everything now, because I am looking with a different lens for the students that we're missing. And I'm blessed because I get to supervise the special education services department for the school district. And so I get to work with people every day that are trying to ensure that we're not over-identifying, but that we're also not missing students in their needs. And so I'm an advocate, and I'm there to tell folks, because, you know, people look at my titles, probably mostly the mayor title than the school one, but they're looking at, well, how did you get there? And I tell folks, I said, look, I got dyslexia too. You know, I don't learn the same as everyone else. And you can still be the mayor. You can still do this. You can still go to school and get degrees, you know.
So, and I, you know, I was going to bring up you being the mayor later, but I'm glad you threw it in there. Because I think that part of being an elected official, right, is a compassion for people. And so I have two questions about that. One, how do you deal with, because I'm going to assume most elected officials are doing their best, right? You're doing your best, and you personally have a heart for trying to do what's best for the people that you serve. But then people disagree with you, and they come at you hot.
Yeah, they do. They do.
How do you deal with that personally? Because you're still human, right? How do you deal with that?
So, well, I think the first thing to do is have a defense, a system to protect you from all the attacks. And so there's spaces you can go to find negativity. I just don't go.
Okay.
And it's not that I abandon, you know, social media, but I give people a place. If you do want to contact me, to give me feedback, you know, in my role or about things that are happening, then here's a page that you can go to that I manage and that I respond to, and you can go and you can put your questions and concerns there. There's also an app where you can go and you can put your questions and concerns there, and we'll respond there. Because if you don't do that, then you can get to a place where there are a lot of angry and hurtful people. And a lot of times, and this kind of gets to the other part of your question, when people are in growing community and they don't have what they need to be successful, they will lash out at the person that's closest to them that they believe can help them. And so I believe that a lot of the problems our city faces is things, you know, poor decisions from past leadership, but also a greater system issue that does not necessarily put people first. In, institutional wise. And so, and I don't think residents, you know, too much care about the why. Why it's bad. They just need it fixed. And I think they're fueled by the impact on it. And so I understand that. Now there's also people that just don't like you because it's you, or something, you know, you wore the wrong color to a meeting one day or something. So I think, so there's those folks, but there's genuinely, and you know, I am optimistic. So I genuinely believe the majority of the residents are just frustrated because they don't have what they need, you know, and some of that's related to the delayed response that the city's had to bring in resources in, and then some of that's just related to other stuff that may not even be related to the city, but they're carrying stuff and they don't have a place to go and escape. So try to have a mindset of compassion for them and understanding. And I also remember myself, because I didn't grow up to be in politics. I didn't grow up to be a city leader. So I was the same person sitting somewhere that didn't know anything about how it worked. And I'm mad at this person or this leader because why ain't you fix that? Why ain't you? They don't even have anything to do with it. But I was mad at them because they were the closest to me. There was the proximity. So I'm mad at whoever's the closest for whatever's going on, whether it be local, county, state, regional, national, whoever's the closest to me that I can connect with or I have access to, that's why I'm be bad. So I take my personal experiences. I also have compassion for people.
Well, that's great. So I have two questions again. I guess I double up all the time. The first question is though, You mentioned that back in middle school, you cuss people out. So I know you got a little anger and you got that.
Yeah.
How do you still get angry sometimes when you hear these things, and how do you deal with that?
Because I think God in his infinite wisdom knew where I was going to be today. He, in my junior year in high school, well, sophomore, junior year, I went through a series of experiences and of witnessing things that were kind of traumatic. And I resolved that, these people were hurt. These people died early because they harbored anger. And I did have a lot of anger as a child growing up for different things I experienced or witnessed. And so I just resolved that, what, I needed to deal with the anger part and the profanity, because the profanity amplified the hidden and the anger. And so I think I did decent without any training of, I just said, well, I'm not going to use profanity anymore. So I just worked to not use profanity. And then I realized that I was still having urges because of the music I was listening to. So thank God that they have gospel rap, because I love rap and hip hop. And so I started listening to that to try to just get the urges out. And these are things over time. It didn't happen overnight. But I had enough understanding that there were things that I was putting in that was exasperating the anger. Now, I didn't learn until, I guess, the last 5 years that I have to have additional ways of managing emotions and anger. Because if I don't, music was a way to do it. But if I get too busy and I can't get to music, then I go back, I revert back to stuffing it down.
That's unhealthy.
It's not healthy at all. What you say, the PMEs?
Yeah.
So stuffing the emotions, get you a lower E, a low P, and low M. So, I've been really, you know what? I went to African American Mayor Association. I got to meet all these Black mayors from across the United States. And, I was so glad that I chose to go to the city about doing that experience, because I wanted to figure out, not necessarily what, I did want to know what Black mayors, how they were managing all of the issues and stuff, but I also wanted to go because to network and to learn. And I got there and got exposed to this app called Talk Square, I think is what it's called. And lo and behold, because of our membership, they pay for free therapy for a year for all the mayors.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna offload all this on this random stranger and get it all out. So sometimes I got the music, sometimes I have the random stranger that was not random, because we consistently, but and sometimes I don't even have anything to talk about. I just go in there and say, check in.
Yeah. Okay. So this is interesting, because there are two things. I didn't ask you the second question. The second question was how did you transition, or how did you end up in politics, right? Like, you didn't really think that was going to be, but I also want to touch on this mental health aspect, because two things happened that I don't know that you realize are not what I would deem as normal. You got a diagnosis and you leaned into it at a time when mental health and diagnosis was kind of taboo. And so you leaned into it and took it, instead of taking it as a negative, you saw the positive, which is why I think you really are optimistic. I think you're true to that. So first, how did you get into politics? And then the other part of that is, you are a Black man and you came from a time when you really didn't lean into therapy and all these things. So talk a little bit about how you're okay with that, right? And because, you're doing music production and rap and hip hop. I don't think that's what you would normally say is the stereotype for someone with that background.
Yeah. So mayor, only because I was trying to solve a problem.
Okay.
And I was doing all this other stuff outside the system, and I just had this unction that I'm still not making the dent. And so I had this feeling like, okay, I won't call it, it's not a void, but it felt like there was more. There was a different problem for them solving. I couldn't find what it was. And so a situation started happening, and, tell you how God started making you lose sleep. So I would get up at night and I would look around and, okay, I'd get on social media or something, and there was like some kind of crime thing. And so then he started working in my mind. I started researching, reading. I had this curiosity. How much juvenile crime is in Manor? And since we're in East Travis County compared to the other areas, because I was working in the schools and I was hearing from judges, precinct 1, that there was a lot of crime and it was coming from Maine. I was like, is that really true? I went to look it up. I couldn't find any data. And so I had to go to the Travis County and open records requests, get the data, disaggregate it, make my own spreadsheets and sort. And 66% of the crime for all of eastern precinct 1 Travis County was coming from Maine.
Oh, wow.
And then I witnessed something one day where adults were mad at kids for playing basketball in the street, and they tried to go out and pass an ordinance in Maine to keep kids from being able to play catch basketball in their houses, in their yard or whatever, because the ball going to the street. And there was all this stuff for attack on youth. And I guess he just used that as a motivation to push me towards running for city council.
Wow.
And so I was like, we need parks, we need a recreation center, we need a library, we need spaces that I had growing up in East Austin. So, I felt I got on to do that.
Yeah.
And I thought I was just gonna get on there and then say, y'all need to do this. It's gonna happen, and I was gonna get off. But he had bigger plans. He wanted me to be mayor, and there was a lot of stuff I needed to learn. And so I applied 2 times, didn't get ran twice, didn't get on. But in all that process, he kept exposing me to people, showing me how to learn the things I need to learn. And so it was the prep I needed. And I would have never done it just to be a council member or a mayor. And I probably would have, without his unctioning and guidance, I probably would have just, let's get the rec center and library, and I would have checked out. I would have quit.
Absolutely.
Because I got it done. But he had more for it. So that's how I got into it. It was really him waking me up, putting, thoughts on my mind and pressuring me to look into things, and that guided me down that path. And then he said, you're going to be mayor. I was like, all right, whatever.
Gonna be mayor.
I guess.
Oh man, I need to have your obedience, because I'm not there. God's not leading me to mayor. Let's be clear. But I think that really, really shows that you are surrendering to what you see as his calling, and then moving forward in helping your communities and leading people. Now back to this,
the
therapy and things, because I'm intrigued.
So his name was Dr. Farringer. And I don't even know if he was the older gentleman then. So I pray he's still alive. He's not. Thank you, Dr. Farringer. Thanks to his family for letting him be at Southwest Texas State during that time period. It was all about how he talked to me. That was it. There was he explained how he told me, how he asked me, and when he saw I had no idea what I was talking about, it was how he told me, it was how he said, you've made it this far and no one helped you, and you've created a way to navigate these things. You must be extremely intelligent. You must be. It was just affirmations about things I had just not heard.
Right.
And my grades weren't showing me.
I hear you.
And so he led me to believe that the only reason why I wasn't at where I wanted to be, where certain things in life, was because basically people had failed me in elementary and didn't give me what they should have noticed it, and they should have helped me. They should have told my family. My parents didn't know, and so we went on a short journey of looking back into some elementary things, and we talked, and he has, a way to do questioning, and we did some flashback into my childhood memories. And I actually remember when I was in 2nd grade being pulled out of class to go to a space to do something. It was always during reading time, because I always hated reading, and he said, I think they were trying to test you, but they probably didn't finish. And so I asked my parents, did y'all ever remember anyone calling about this? They never told them.
Oh, wow.
So they just dropped the ball. Someone noticed. My 2nd grade teacher, I remember her, and she was an awesome lady. So I think she made a referral, and they never finished it.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So it was all about how he told me about it, and he made it seem like to me that if I went to the Learning Assistance Center and used what I had, what the tools they gave me, then I would be unstoppable. And he pointed me in the direction of this guy by the name of James Matthews and Dr. Carl Dochin. And they were the runner. They ran the Slack Center over there on the fourth floor of the Alcac Library. And I went over there and I talked to them. And I mean, it was God orchestrated because they all gave me exactly what I needed, and it was encouraging. And I know that it was what I needed, because I could have gone completely the other direction.
Yeah,
I could have been like, I'm struggling. Now you're telling me I got this problem, you know?
Right. And that's why I think it's a unique part of your story, because I feel like there are a lot of, especially Black and brown kids, but just children, period, who present with these issues. Yes. And then you were blessed, right? You were blessed
Absolutely.
to have the intelligence to figure out some way to get things done. But sometimes that's real hard, and people just go the other way, because if you're really good at math, really good at music, and you're really good at I could figure out a couple of other occupations that you could do that could get you money and not be as hard as the path that you took. And so I think it's important to recognize how impactful those choices were, and how people, you were receptive too, right? It came at a time, it came with the message in a way that you could receive it. And I think that's important. And now you're talking about actually being in therapy, right? I feel like therapy right now, it went from a swing of nobody goes to therapy to everybody goes to therapy. Yeah. And I think there's this stigma around therapy now, like, oh, everybody's therapized, right?
Well, and I think, I think it's become a trend, and that's dangerous,
right?
Because you can, my background is in social work.
Yes.
I did learn a little bit, so I understand, you need to get in there, at least for us, our process began with referrals and a psychosocial assessment. And then from the data we collected during that process, we would then, develop an intervention.
Right.
So it's not supposed to go forever.
Right.
And it's not supposed to create a dependency. And I believe, that it is now, especially people of color, Black folks, once it becomes cool or okay, we overly lean into it. And so I think there's a space for us to be cautious about how we get into, why we get in there, how long we stay in there, and what we're doing, so that we don't, like, I understand. So I have specific conversations with mine about the goals that I want to accomplish. And so we move through goals, and then if I don't need the whole year, I'm not going to use the whole year.
Right.
I'll check out and go from there, because you can, like I said, you can mentally and emotionally become dependent on that.
And I think that's important. And I was explaining this to one of my friends about how therapy it's dependent on what's going on in your life. Like, I might have the same therapist for 5 years, but that doesn't mean I'm going to therapy weekly for 5 years. That could be, sometimes I'm going weekly for a few months. Sometimes I'm going once a month. Yeah. Sometimes I'm going once a quarter. I might have just seen the therapist once a year. I might have skipped a year. But it depends on what's happening in your life and whether or not, I always talk about it. It's more so of, you know how you say something in your head and it sounds great, and you say it out loud and you're like, And sometimes you need an unbiased party to reflect back on what you're saying and ask questions and challenge you a little bit. And your loved ones can serve that purpose, but that it's much easier, I think, for someone who isn't involved in you and isn't interested.
Well, and the thing is, I mean, when we're specifically talking about Black people, when we talk about the legacy of strategic things that were done to condition us to a certain mindset and behavior, there's a lot of things that I can go to a therapist and get dealt with the surface level things.
Yes.
and then turn around and continue a pattern or behavior that's accepted by our family and community, because it's still a bad behavior.
Right.
And so it's still, I shouldn't say bad, it's an unhealthy behavior, unhealthy thought process. And so I think you have to have multiple things around you that or that you can go to to evaluate. 360 evaluations is what I do even with my teams at work, and I give them the opportunity to show me blind spots. So I think you're right. You have to constantly be working to ensure that you're good. Same token, you have to keep therapy in the space below God.
Hear you.
Because if we're not careful, when you become saved, the Lord says that your counselor is the Holy Spirit. And so, and God can use anyone to help you work out and navigate through spaces. So it's not that you don't go to a therapist because you got the Holy Spirit, but it's you go when the Holy Spirit is saying, yeah, you need to go ahead and do this.
Yeah.
Because there's also the challenge or the directive from the Lord to grow spiritually and to grow in our dependence on Him. And so when therapy becomes the first response versus checking in with God, then that becomes the God,
right?
That you go there. And so it's a delicate balance of, knowing that you have mentors, because the Bible talks about, wisdom being the principal thing, so get wisdom. So a therapist, a counselor is someone who's gone to learn about emotions and about the mind. And so they have this wisdom that you should be able to access so that you can navigate space. But it should never supersede what the Lord is saying. And so I think people have to have those boundaries and understanding that it never supersedes what God is saying for you to do. Because you can go to a therapist and they can tell you, well, what feels good.
That's true.
And the Bible says it's not about your feelings.
Yes, that's true. That is true.
It's about faith, His glory, and His will. And so He may ask you to do something that doesn't feel good. So we have to keep that balance of doing what He says, going to the people, and even selecting the therapist, making sure you selecting someone that's going to understand that these are my values, my beliefs. Please don't ask me to, respond to a situation that contradicts
your beliefs. Yeah. And I think that that's important because we hear about there's this conflict between religion and God and therapy. And then in some instances, you see a lot of people who have been damaged by the church and not telling them to go to therapy, or the church not having the resources to deal with mental health issues in a way that actually could be substantial. And I think that it can coexist, though, and
it does coexist. For many years and in many churches, you have a pastor who's so strongly connected to the Lord that they can do the advice themselves. You also have pastors that say, you need to go to therapy. But I think because in our community, we don't necessarily have to get all the facts.
Yes.
And we're quick to label. And so the one or two churches that don't do it right, we say we didn't generalize to the whole thing. Like I'll give you an example. Tony Evans, his church, they have a whole counseling team for community facing, because they understand that God uses all sorts of things.
Right.
And if you actually dive deeper into psychology, you understand that all those principles actually come back from or linked into the Bible.
Right.
So it's not that and I think there's a misunderstanding sometimes that can be communicated in regards to people. The old way was to give directives and rules to protect. And we're in a generation now where people want to know the why. And because the rule was there, lines get drawn. And so it appears to be church against counseling.
Right.
But the real thing is, hey, don't make anything a God before God. Understand that he gives all wisdom. He has all answers, and he may choose for you to go to therapy. He may choose for you not to. So you always check with him on what you're supposed to do, not what man is saying or anyone else. And I think, and I think that's biblical, and that's what he says for all things.
Right. And so this, I'm going to say last question, but it's a lot. Because I do have a question after, but this is the last question in reference to that. Because I do want to be respectful of your time, but how do you know when it's God versus me?
Oh, that's easy. No, trial and error. I think it's, someone can ask me, they can give me 4 or 5 prompts, and they can say, here's the situation, and here's what the person said, and the person can be my wife. And I can go to the prompts. I can be like, no, she ain't said that. She ain't that. This is what she said. And they'll be like, well, how do you know? How'd you get that right? Experience.
It's true.
So the only way you already know his voice is to experience him, to build the relationship, dive deeper in the word. And when you get faced with conflict, trust him. I know that my wife won't do anything to harm me, because when conflict has come in, she didn't do it.
Right.
And so I think over time, when you're faced with different things, the decision to trust and run with it gets you a deeper understanding of who he is. Read the Bible, sermons, and not just taking sermons and Bible study for what's been said, but diving deep and confirming. Because you can go to a church, you can listen to a sermon, and the message that sits out or that's communicated out can be for everyone, you included, but you can get fixated on one part.
I was just about to ask.
And the Lord may be leading you to go a different direction. So it's important you always hear preachers, quote scripture talking about meditating on the word. So so I take notes now. And I my dad always told us to not question everything, but to know it for yourself. And so you take the sermon, you take the notes, and you go back and you say, okay, Lord, this is what they preached about. This is how I can see the connection. Is there anything I'm missing, or is there anything you want to show me? You do that. You process that either the same day during the sermon or whatever, but you process it with him. And then over time, you start to learn what he's saying, and you hear his voice. But there's times where there's a lot of chaos and you hear still soft voice, and sometimes it's like that. Sometimes it's through the messages. Sometimes he sends people, and it's come. And they say the same thing. I don't know what you got going on, but the Lord told me to come over and tell you this.
Yes.
They say it hits you in your gut. You be like, oh, and then they walk away and leave you with it.
Yep.
So
I'm trying to run away from this.
So he does all kinds of things to let you know. It's this trial, and it's trusting that he's trying to speak to you, and just being observant. Like, okay, I believe Lord is saying this. All right, so I'm gonna ask him for confirmation. I think he's saying yes, so I'm gonna do it, and then you'll learn.
So do you think that your optimism or your general optimistic outlook helps you to be more open to feedback and kind of understanding things that challenge your notion of what things are supposed to be, so that you can change your perspective? Because I think that that's something right now that people are so all in on things, where it's like, we're not accepting of, I might be wrong on this.
There's some things, my family I can be stubborn sometimes, and I'll tell you, I can be stubborn sometimes. So there's some things that I lock in on, and it's with confidence, or a strong belief in that. But I think the optimism comes from, really having deep reflection about things I've experienced and how he's brought me through. And so I really see each day as a gift. When I was in college, I got rushed to the hospital, thinking like a mild heart attack or something like that in my 20s. I was overly stressed with
How you gonna
stuff
bring
going
this
on.
up at the end of the interview, sir?
It's been a lot, so between that, I was dating someone one time and went to see her, and I'm driving through the parking lot, and it's my car and this other car, and someone comes with a gun and points it through my car and goes around and then shoots the person right there.
Oh wow.
And so I see, and that's just a few things where I was near death, either by proximity or just things I've experienced. And so I have an understanding of that every day is not promised.
Right.
And it fuels me to do as much as I can, which can kind of be annoying to other people because I'm like, I'm going to get it done.
Yes.
I'm like, well, it's supposed to be a team effort and we don't want to do it. I'm like, that's on you.
Yeah,
I'm going to get it
done.
I'm going to get this thing done
Yes,
because I don't want, and it's really, I want him to be pleased with me. I don't want to die and be like, hey, you left 5 things on the table.
Yes.
And so it catapults me to accomplish things. And like I wake up, I'm like, I can be upset, but somebody didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that what you're talking about is gratitude, right? At some point, I think it shifts in your life or it doesn't. And that is, I think that if you can choose gratitude, right, and really see it, it's a gift. Like it's a gift that keeps on giving because, you can get so the big and bad things will be elevated in your mind. It's just the way that, and you start to get fearful and scared and pissed. But I think just latching onto those small gifts or just being able to, because I don't want to come to work every day, right? There, I don't want to walk all the time. I don't want to do, there's nothing that you want to do all the time. And I think being grateful really, really helps with that for your family, even though they might get on your nerves sometimes, right? For your significant others, for your children, for the people in your life who really, really support you. I think that's cool.
And it's work in progress, but you replace, because your speech and your words are powerful, and it's really just working to speak more positive. You're going to have an account, and the Bible talks about being accountable for all your words. There's going to be a day where you're going to be, held accountable for everything you said. We're supposed to edify people. And so that's why I've kind of made that my purpose. Like people, when I interact with people, they should be better because they had an interaction with me. It doesn't mean that my interaction, like I may have to interact with someone and tell them some truths that are needed to redirect them, turn them away from a certain thing. So that their interaction may not be positive at that point, but it may be positive later. But I'll always want to be able to be used so that people are better either now or in the future because of the interaction. And I think that's, it is gratitude. It's, and it's, I think, obedience.
Yeah. Obedience is a big one, right? Okay. So 2 questions. These are the last 2 questions, I promise. What does good enough mean for you right now?
Good enough for me, so when you say it, the first thing that comes to mind is the phrase that comes to mind is that this is good enough means it's what I would say to myself if I think that I'm not, or if I'm questioning what I'm being asked to do, or if I'm questioning, if I'm questioning just where I'm at, where I'm been asked to, I am good enough to be able to do what I'm called to do, what I'm supposed to do, and I'm not good enough because I don't see it as good enough in the sense of just barely.
Yes,
I am good enough because I've been created with what I need, and my path is going to give me the necessary skills and experiences to be successful. So I'm good enough for the job.
Absolutely. Okay. So the last question is, what would you say to someone right now who's at their low point and they're looking for that little crumb of hope? what would you say to that person?
I would say you're here so you have a purpose, and you may be struggling with what you're struggling right now because you're isolated, and you need to, find people that are going to pour into you, encourage you, uplift you, and be community for you. We were never meant to do life by ourselves, so you need to find a group of people that would do life with you, encourage you, not give you all the answers, but it help point you in the direction so you can be equipped and empowered. Um, Tomorrow's another day, and it will get better. So, I mean, I don't remember who told me this, but the key to life, someone said the key to life is just keep living.
Yeah.
So just manage 24 hours the best as you can. You get it. Lord gives you another 24, then take it. It gets better.
Absolutely. I think that's a great segue into ending our interview today, because our tagline is to stay hopeful for tomorrow, but good enough today. And I think that we're trying to help build a community of people who understand that we all have our things.
Yeah.
And it's good to tell people what those things are, because you never know who might be able to help you. But of course, have some discernment in that, but also understanding that living and getting to that next day is something that gives you an opportunity for your entire life to change. So with that, we want to thank you for being on our show today. I appreciate you coming here, and also help everyone realize that even though it might not be ideal right now, we hope that you stay hopeful for tomorrow, but you're absolutely, absolutely good enough today.
Hopeful for tomorrow, good enough today. Oh yeah, hopeful for tomorrow, good enough today.